ORSP and CETL can offer you. And I'm sure many of you have worked with our offices. I know that many of you have worked with our offices already. But we'll give you a little bit more information about some of the programs we offer, and we are really eager to hear your questions as well. So feel free to interrupt us at any time as we're going through things, and we'll also leave some time at the end for questions. But we want to start with introductions. So I'll begin by introducing myself. I'm Erica Benson. I am the Executive Director of the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs on campus. I've been on campus for about 20 years. I started as an assistant professor of linguistics in the English department, and I did that for about 19 years before transitioning into the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs, first as the interim director, and now as the executive director. So I'll just pick Angie. Would you like to go next?
Sure. I've met, I think, everyone here, but I'm Angie Thamba. I'm the director of CETL, or Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, and I've been on campus 17 years. So I come from nursing. So I came here as an assistant professor in nursing, and people are always like, well, how did you get the CETL? My PhD is in adult education. So I am, if you ever want to talk to, never know where you're going to end up in life, that is my whole life. So welcome, everyone.
And Heather, go ahead.
All right, good morning. I'm Heather Johnson Schmitz. I'm the manager of grants and contracts in ORSP. I've been on campus this time in this role for about 1.5 years, but many years ago I was in ORSP in a different role, and I also got my degree here, my undergraduate degree. So UW Eau Claire is near and dear.
And then I'd like to ask the participants for you to introduce yourselves, tell us your department program, how long you've been on campus, and what it is, if there's anything in particular that you'd like us to for sure talk about today, or something that you're interested in. And I'll ask you, I'll pick someone to start, and then if you could pick someone else to be the next person to go, that would be great. So Kelly, you are at the top of my screen, so we'll start with you.
Okay, can you hear me? Because I see that my view is frozen, which is fine. You don't need to see me moving around, but my name is Kelly Muller. I am in the Communication Sciences and Disorders Department. And I do some teaching, but a lot of clinical supervision. And so I'm interested in engaging in research about that clinical supervision process. And I just attended the college just had a research boot camp last week, which was really helpful. Heather came and talked to us, which was a really helpful opportunity. So I'm really just dipping my toes in. My terminal degree is a master's, so I haven't done a dissertation. So research is, I'm really at the beginning stages, but I'm in the process of finalizing a proposal for a summer faculty student research collaboration research grant with an eye to doing some research on clinical supervision and feedback specifically. So I can pick Bo Kai.
Looks like Bo Kai chatted. So thank you, Bo Kai, for your.
Amy, why don't you then go next?
Great. Hi, I'm Amy Fleury. I'm in the English department. I'm a lecturer. This is my second year at UWEC. I came here to be with family. My husband's family lives in the area. So I spent about 24 years in tenured stream and tenured positions prior to coming here, and I really love it here. And one of my curiosities, a colleague of mine told me that IAS were eligible to apply for IRCAS, so I'm particularly interested in learning about IRCAS. So, and let's see who else is here. Maybe Ashley, go next.
Hello, is it working? I think. Okay, I had some technical issues, so I'm not sure if you can. My name is Ashley Walton Beal. I am a counselor in the counseling services, but also new to teaching for the psych folks. I teach an abnormal psychology class.
Beth, how about you go next then?
Hi, everyone. I'm Beth Evans. I am just starting my second year in the College of Nursing. I have a PhD in nursing, looking for opportunities for funding, perhaps working with students this summer, that type of thing. So I'm really a little bit more focused on the scholarship portion of my duties this semester and moving forward. So just wanting to learn what I can from you all, and I just appreciate all the resources. So thank you. And I'll choose Charles next.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Charles Ebert. Oh, I hope there's not another Charles. I apologize if there's more than one. But okay. Yeah, my name is Charles Ebert. I'm a new teacher over in the College of Business in the marketing department. So I'm really excited to be here, and I've had a great first semester, and I'm starting my next one. And yeah, I'm just looking to learn, just see what the opportunities are that are on offer. I'm doing some student research right now, and just looking at opportunities for them and for future people, and just generally trying to understand things. So yeah. Now I apologize. I'm not very good at remembering who didn't go and did go. Should I? Alexandria, did you go yet, or you've
I
already
did
gone?
not go. I'll go. Yeah.
Oh,
thanks.
then you go next. Okay.
Thanks. I'm Alex Fegood. I am in the psychology department. I'm a new professor here, started this fall. And I've been involved in some research on campus with undergrads, but I am interested in kind of the summer research opportunities, and want to know more about kind of internal funding that is available to support students. And I think Jane maybe did not go.
Thank you, Alexandria. I'm Jane Strong, and I've been in the College of Business for 5 years. I moved from an IAS role into an assistant professor this fall. I have summer funding, but I've been working with a student on a project since last fall, and we're in the data analysis phase. So I'd really like to get him summer stipend. So I'm interested in that 9 February deadline that's coming up fast, and really how to fill out that form, specifically like the funding per hour, how many hours to allocate for him. So really specific needs for that. So that's my big question. And Christy, has Christy gone?
Hi, I'm Chrissy Ammon. I'm in the music department. This is my second year here, and I am most interested in learning about summer funding opportunities and research projects. And let's see, Emily, have you gone?
No, I haven't gone yet. I can
Okay.
go. Hi, I'm Emily Hastings. I'm a new assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science. And I'm just kind of generally interested in knowing what some of the funding opportunities are as I get my research program started here. And I think that's everybody. I'm not sure if there's anybody left to be introduced.
Thank you, everyone. Is there anyone who hasn't gone? I think we got everybody. Okay. Great. So we'll dive in. We'll start by talking about ORSP. First, we'll talk about some of the internal funding options. And again, if you have specific questions, feel free to ask those. And then we'll move into looking at external funding options. And then we'll turn things over to Angie to talk more about CETL. So Heather, can you share the PowerPoint for us? Great, thank you. Right, wonderful. So we can go on to the next slide. Oh, it looks like I can do that too. So, okay. Wonderful. So you may know that in the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs, our mission really is to maintain a supportive environment for research, scholarly, and creative endeavors of the faculty, academic staff, and students. So for most of our internal grants, if you are a faculty member, if you are an academic staff member with at least a 0.5, 50% appointment, then you are eligible for our grants. And that also goes for students. The students have to be at least a half-time student to be eligible. And so you can see here from our graphic that we provide that support in a variety of ways. So we'll talk a lot today about some of the funding options that we can provide through our internal grants and through the system and external grants. But we also offer opportunities for professional development, one-on-one consultations, working with you to help you if you have some ideas about your research program, but you're not sure where to go next. You know, we're happy to sit down with you and talk about that, or connect you with others who can advise and mentor on those issues. And then our third priority, which we won't really talk too much about, is the ways that we support the institution through policies, procedures, research compliance, etc. So, of course, you all know that UW-Eau Claire is really known for our student-faculty research collaborations, and I'm happy to hear that many of you are already involved with working with students. For me personally, I found that that was one way that it took me a few years to figure this out when I was on the tenure track, but it was one of the ways that I could keep my own research going and be able to make contributions in terms of presentations and publications by having students work with me on those projects. I initially started out by working with students kind of more on their projects, and I continued to do that throughout my career on the tenure track, but I also tried to figure out ways that I could have students help with my own research agenda. And so that was one of the things that I had learned along the way. And all of this information is on our website, and we'll provide you with the PowerPoint as well. But you can see here that we offer a number of different funding. These are internal funding opportunities to support you and students, and that several of you mentioned summer research opportunities. So you can see the summer research experience for undergraduates, where not only does the student get a stipend, but the faculty member also gets a stipend, and those deadlines are coming up in just a few weeks, February 9th. There's also the Summer Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, and Angie will say a few more things about that. In partnership with our immersions program, we offer an International Fellows program that will excuse me, fund research if you are going abroad with if you'd like to take some students abroad to do research. So that Jeff DeGraw is the person to contact about that. But there are, as you see, 3 different deadlines throughout the year for those. And those typically are a little ways in advance that you're doing the applications for those projects. We also have an opportunity to work with students and Mayo Clinic clinicians with the Biomedical Innovation Grant. So that's an opportunity where if you have a project, and we can help if you have an idea for a project, we can help connect you with someone at the Mayo Clinic we can try to find someone who might want to collaborate with you on it. And then you apply to work with a biomedical innovator student. So 10 students each year, incoming students, are given the biomedical innovator scholarship, and then they're paired with a project. And so this is the application to say, hey, I'd like to propose a project where I could work with one of those students. And the commitment on the faculty side is that you work with the student for 2 years, at least 2 years. They might continue to work with you. And each year you receive either a 3-credit course reassignment, or a $5,000 summer stipend to work with the student. The student has a scholarship all 4 years of their undergraduate career for that. So again, there's more information on the website, but if you want to talk about those, happy to do that. And then we have our regular student faculty research collaboration. So that's essentially the same as the summer research experience for undergraduates, except it's during the academic year. And the early bird deadline for that is July 15th. And then we have another deadline in September for those, September 15th. Strongly recommend that you go for the early bird deadline on those. But like I said, it's essentially the same application process as what you're doing for the SREU, but the funding is for the academic year. And then again, another similar program is our diversity mentoring program. And this really is to help students who are in underrepresented populations to be able to do research. So the faculty mentor submits the application. Again, the application consists of filling out that form and then providing a research narrative and a mentoring narrative. And there's a variety of categories that the students might fall into, and the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs can always check their status to confirm whether they fall into one of those. So for instance, there's students who are of low income, meaning they're Pell Grant eligible. They will fall into that category. If they are registered with the Services for Students with Disabilities Office, they're eligible for diversity mentoring. If they're students of color, they're eligible. If they are first generation students, non-traditional students. So those are all eligible. And like I said, that's essentially the same as our student faculty research collaboration, but the deadline is open. You can apply at any time for those. And then we have the Vicki Lord Larson, James Larson tenure track reassignment collaborative research program. So a long title for an opportunity for a faculty member to have when they're on the tenure track early in their career, they can apply for a course reassignment or a summer stipend to work with a student on a project. The student receives a scholarship for this one. Instead of receiving a stipend for wages, they receive a scholarship. And the deadline for that is January 15th of each year. So that one has just passed for this year. Any questions about those? Can I move on?
So, yeah, thank you so much for this information. This is great stuff. I do have one question, and I don't know if now is the right time for it, but I've had a previous email where I talked about these with someone from the department, and it seems that they aren't eligible for the type of like experimental payment of participants, correct? Like there's restrictions on how they're used.
Yes.
Could we get a summary on like what they can be used for, not for, something like that?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I think I'm looking, most of these grants come with wages for students, so a student stipend. For the summer research experiences, it's up to $2,300. For the academic year, the student faculty research collaboration, diversity mentoring during the academic year, the student stipend is up to $2,000 for those. And then there's up to $600 in what we call supplies funding. So that can be used for research related travel. So if you need to travel to a site to collect data, It can be used for supplies. Maybe you're doing paper-based surveys that you need to have copied and distributed. Maybe there are some materials that you need to purchase, like some books that would be really helpful for your students to have, or access to some kind of, sometimes people are using a survey that is copyrighted or that they need to pay to access. So there is a variety of things that those supplies funds can be spent on. But there are also, as you've noted, Charles, university, and these are actually University of Wisconsin system regulations on how our state funds can be spent. And participant incentives fall under the category of, I'm trying to remember, it's gifts, prizes, etc. And so there are limitations on state funds being spent on those kinds of things. On our website, on the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs website, we have a link to the participant incentives policy, as well as a link to that UW system policy about the gifts, giveaways, prizes. So you're right. If you have a question about whether the funds can be spent on something, feel free to reach out and we will then look into that, because like I said, some of it has to do with just how state funds can be spent. Just another caveat, if you're purchasing software, that's another piece that's a little more complicated. You might say you want to purchase this software and we can say, okay, we're going to provide you some funding, but that's not the end. When you buy software, you actually have to submit a request through LTS, a procurement request for software, because maybe some other people on campus have already purchased that software and we actually have access to it already with a license. So purchasing software is another item that there's more to the process than just our being able to say, yes, we have some funds available where you can do that. Yeah, so always good to reach out, and we're happy to point you in the to the policy or direction to help answer those. Yeah. Other questions? All right, so I'll continue with some more of our internal grants to support your research. So these are grants that where you don't have to be working with a student on them, essentially. So we have another grant deadline coming up on March 1st for extramural grant development. So if you or members of your department would like to work on submitting an external grant application, this is a grant that can provide you a summer stipend to work on that proposal. And of course, you'll work closely with our office on that as well. So this is a stipend to help you prepare an external grant application. And then we have a few others, the National Endowment for Humanities incentive stipend. For some of you, in a few more years, you'll be eligible for sabbatical leave and applying for that. Those deadlines, we're moving to make all of our deadlines kind of set deadlines. So instead of changing a little bit each year, we're going to say September 10th is the deadline from now on for sabbatical applications. If that falls on a weekend, then it's going to be the following Monday. And the same you'll see with the IRCA, the University Research and Creative Activity Grant. From now on, it's going to be January 15th is the deadline for that. And so IRCA grants are an opportunity. There are two opportunities there. One is for course reassignment. So you can receive from a 1 to 5 credit course reassignment from one course on an IRCA. And when you're applying in January, IRCAs are for the following academic year. The other option for IRCA is to receive research funding. So again, some funds that you can spend on research activities of the type that we just talked about. And currently that is up to $3,000 that you can receive there. So that's kind of the largest internal grant that we have for a lump sum of research funding. And then we have our UW Eau Claire Mayo Clinic Collaborative Research Program. So that again is an opportunity to work with a Mayo Clinic clinician on a project. And there is a committee, the Research Innovation Council, that reviews those applications, but you also work closely with our office as well as coordinators at Mayo to put together those applications. And we're always, again, happy to talk with you if you have an idea, to help you think about, to connect you with possible collaborators, et cetera. And then we have our small research grant, which is a $500 grant that can be used for a variety of expenses. So it may be that you need a student for 20 hours of work. So a small project that you need a student to help you with some data coding or analysis, or doing some illustrations, or maybe you want to pay for some illustrations for a manuscript that you're working on, or there's a potential possibly to have those apply to open access fees. We have some other options for that too. So the small research grant is kind of just a catch-all up to $500 that we can, with an open deadline, that can be used for lots of different activities. Any questions about these? Okay, I'll go on then to our professional development grant. So we have essentially 3 categories of professional development grants. And the deadline is the 1st of every month for these. So the first one is workshops and special projects travel. So ORSP does not fund you're presenting at a conference. That's something that's funded through your department or college. But let's say that there's a conference that you'd like to go to because there is a workshop that you want to attend, or that you have a special project that you want to work on that might require you to go to the Folger Library, let's say, or some specific archive that you want to do work at. That's where the workshops and special projects travel grant can come in handy. So up to $1,500 funding to do that. And like I said, it could be that it's tied to a conference and there's a special session or workshop that you want to go to. And we do ask that you, as part of that application, talk about then how you're going to come back and disseminate that information to others too. The next 2 are really about bringing other professionals, artists, experts to our campus to help with professional development of colleagues, ourselves and colleagues. So the guest lecturers, artists, and other professionals grant is up to $1,200. Or if you do a series of a program that involves a series, multiple guests coming, then it can be up to a maximum of $3,600, but $1,200 for a single event, $3,600 for multiple events. And so this is, like I said, bringing someone to campus to provide professional development to us. And we like for those folks to have a variety of activities that they're involved in. So at least one of the events has to be open to the public. And others may be targeted to classrooms or to smaller groups or groups of faculty, et cetera. And the Visiting Minoritized Scholars and Artists program is, like I said, very similar to the Guest Lecturers, Artists, and Other Professionals program, but Visiting Minoritized Scholars and Artists program focuses on issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion as part of the program. So any questions about those? Yes, Jane, go ahead.
So with the travel to workshops, does that include virtual?
It could. So this is something we've discussed recently in the committee, because during COVID, we certainly pivoted and supported virtual events for all of our professional development programs. And so we've just had a conversation among the committee if that's something that we want to continue to support. And so, yes, we would consider virtual options for those.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking. Okay, any other questions? All right, I'm going to turn things over to Heather next to talk about our extramural grant services.
Well, thank you, Erica. I'm always amazed at just the breadth of the internal grant programs that are available here at UW Clare. And another opportunity and service that we provide is help with your external grant seeking. So, those foundations, those federal grants, those sources of funding outside UW Clare are things that we can also help with. So I'll just give you a sense of some of the services that we're here to provide. So maybe you're just starting your journey. Maybe you've had an internal grant, you got some preliminary data. Now you're ready to kind of springboard out to the external funding sources. We can help you find those funding opportunities. We can have a conversation, learn a little bit more about your research, your project, your creative activity, and then our office can search for grant opportunities, or we can walk you through the process of searching for opportunities on your own. We're also here to help as you prepare those external grant proposals. We have an internal review process. So anytime an external proposal goes out the door, it's really going out under the umbrella of the university. So we communicate that with folks all the way from your chair on up to the provost, just so that they know about this cool work that you're doing. And then when you get that external award, the path is smoothed and everyone's aware of the project details. And we also help with proposal narrative feedback. So I'm not in your discipline, you have that expertise. However, I've written many grant proposals, I've been a reviewer for many grant programs, so I can bring that outside eye and just help, ensure that things are as competitive as possible and as well aligned with the grant criteria as possible. Budgets are a big one. I know a lot of people hear the word budget and cringe, so please don't let that be a barrier. We take care of that. We can have a conversation. You can send me a bulleted list of, things, supplies, time that you're going to need, and I put together that budget. So we try to remove that if it's a barrier or feels like a stress point for you. And then, of course, when you get that external funding, we're here to go through the terms and conditions. If somebody gives you money, they're going to have certain expectations. We look through those with you to be sure that you're protected. So, for example, if there was a clause that said something about how you couldn't publish, that would be a problem. So we look for things like that and just be sure that you're protected and that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And we get signatures. So again, because grants are really coming to the university, and then for your work, we'll get those institutional signatures and take care of that for you. And in addition to grants, outside grants, sometimes you might have other kinds of agreements. So maybe if you're working with somebody in industry, for example, and they have some confidential types of information and they want you to sign a non-disclosure, we help you out with that. Maybe you're transferring data, maybe data sets are going in between, or you're working with an outside evaluator and you need to send them some data. We can put together a quick agreement just so that it's clear exactly who's going to get what they can and can't do with it. So I just mentioned that sometimes it comes up and people aren't sure where to go. We help with those kind of outside agreements in addition to external grants. And I just want to make the open offer, reach out. One of my favorite things is to meet with faculty and hear what you're doing and hear about what you're passionate about. And then, I can have my eyes out for those external grants and just send you opportunities. Any questions about the external grant side? Okay, I'll turn it over to, so here are our contacts in the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs. And of course, this is all on our website as well. Erica mentioned, I think Kim Reed is our office manager. She is excellent with all your questions, or will help you know who to go to. Melissa Wallace is our research compliance specialist. So if you're working with human subjects, for example, she can help you with IRB questions, or if you have animals that you're working with, she can help you with the institutional animal care and use committee process. I'll hand it back to Erica. Anything else about ORSP?
I think that's all good. Does anybody have any questions about ORSP before we turn things over to CETL? Okay, Angie, you are up.
All right, so I know that I've met all of you and you are familiar with CETL in general, but I just wanted to use this opportunity to just talk about some of the things moving forward to think about. And one that is not on here, but I thought I would just bring up is we have a call out for Faculty College. And you may have seen that or not, but I just want to explain what Faculty College is. It's a UW system opportunity where we go to Elkhart Lake, which is on the east side of the state, to like a resort. And it's May 28th through the 31st. So it's that we leave like Tuesday, like 11 or 12, the Tuesday after Memorial Day, and you get back about 3 o'clock on Friday. All expenses are paid for, and the focus is on teaching and equity-based teaching. And what they have done over the last 3 years is kind of changed the formatting. So we bring teams of 10 individuals from each campus, and it can be anyone, doesn't matter rank, doesn't matter where you are in your career. And we come together and they have programming, they bring in national speakers in the morning, they have breakout sessions. But then the cool part, not that I'm not all for teaching, is in the afternoon, they always give you a 2-hour time that is just your time to actually have the resort kind of be a retreat. So you can walk, there's biking, there's boats, there's paddleboarding, there's things like that that you can do. I always like to use the time for a nap. That's my favorite time, just a nap. And then there's also time built in as our university team. So we get together and we talk about things that we're learning about. So it's a really great opportunity to meet people from other departments too. And since we're retreating, oftentimes our team will get together if you want to or not in the evenings. And of the last 2 years in this new format, those groups have really got to know each other well and continue to do things together because now you know other people. So right now, we're asking if you're interested, that it's you put in like a 150 to 300 little statement of why you'd be interested. And please don't spend any time really thinking this through to say like, this is why I'm interested in equity teaching and all that. It says it's due today, but I'm not going to look at them until Monday morning. So if this is something that you're like, yeah, I need a retreat and think about my teaching and equity-based teaching, feel free to submit that. We're happy to take a look at it and go from there. So it's always hard to commit to, but once you get there, like, I'm glad I did this because it's a longer stretch of time and it's all expense paid. So you don't have to worry about that part of it too. So something to think about that's not on my slide that I'm going to put a plug in because they've really changed the format and it is a great way to also unwind after the semester. So the other 3 things that are on there is the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning Grant, which we call CETL, which Erica had referred to. So this is in collaboration with ORSP. So similar to what she explained about the stipend that a faculty member would get along with student stipends and up to $600 budget, all of that is the same in this grant. What's different is we're really focused on teaching related research, looking at your courses and the redesign and how that helps you meet the outcomes. And that is what the CETL grant is for. So if you've never done Scholarship of Teaching and Learning and wonder if your project and what you want to do fits, I'm here as a resource, just set up, but we can talk through and consult. And then this gives you the same opportunity for your students to, but focus on your classes or focus on your research question. So depending on your discipline, CETL is viewed differently. Sometimes some disciplines call it like discipline-based education research. This would fit really well into this grant. So I'm always grateful to ORSP for this collaboration, but we keep all the rules and things same. So anything that would apply to their student summer research grants are the same for this CETL grant. Many of you who have just started in your first year, you may not want, you still probably need to focus on getting for the semester, but if you've been here, we do have a new educator certificate program that runs every spring. And we invite everyone, but we really focus on people in their second to fourth year. It's an opportunity again to meet with a group of people and focus on teaching. We bring in experts from campus around different topics. We send you a survey and say, what do you want to learn about? So a common one is maybe like classroom management techniques. Sometimes it's discussion, sometimes it's feedback, and we set this up in a way for you to complete the certificate program, one for your portfolios or your reviews, but then also to have another group of people that you're meeting across disciplines to focus on your teaching. And then as always, we do one-on-one consultations and support. So anything you want to talk about, we're here. So I know like right now, artificial intelligence is a big one that people are consulting us with and want to talk about. Some people are redesigning assignments or want syllabus language. So all of those, you can shoot an email to CETL or myself, and we can answer questions via email, or we can also set up times to talk and look at your materials. So any questions about any of those items? Jane.
When's the deadline for the soda?
It is the same as the summer ORSP. Oh, I can't talk. Today's
9th?
Friday. The ORSP. February 9th.
Okay. Thank you.
It's been a week. You know. I'm sure it has for all of you as well as the semester starting on Monday. All right. And again, we're here whenever you need us all year round. So if you're like, I don't want to talk to you until maybe summer, we're here in summer too. So we're here to help.
So now's our open time for questions. And if I could, I'd like to come back, Jane, to a question that you asked when you introduced yourself. And that is, how do you figure out that budget portion of the internal grants where it asks about the student stipend? So the student wage amounts, I'm going to just tell you what typically we don't have set amounts, but the amounts range from about $8 to $15 an hour, depending on the student's level of experience, typically. I would say most are $10 or $12 an hour. That's where most people fall. And then figuring out the number of hours, I think you can go about that two different ways. One is in consultation with your student, seeing how many hours they would be available to work on the project. That's one way to start, because they may have another job, they may have other things that they're going to be doing. So, you know, how many hours are they going to be able to work on the project? With the summer research experience for undergraduates, typically the funding starts with the new fiscal year, July 1st. And so your time for that is typically from July 1st until the end of August, until the semester starts up again. However, we have, over the past several years, been able to provide early funding from this fiscal year so that if someone wanted to get started in late May and work in June, because that's a time when many people are available, the students are available, we've been able to accommodate that. So we do have a section of the form where we ask you if you would like early funding. And like I said, that's essentially, we're kind of looking to see what money do we have left over in this fiscal year that we could then go ahead and allocate. That money does have to be spent by the end of June, by that last pay period in June, or else it goes away. And so when you ask for early funding, we actually give you your award notice has, here's the funding you're getting in for this year. It would be fiscal year 23, and then, or sorry, fiscal year 24. And then here's the funding you're getting for fiscal year 25, which starts July 1st. So that's how it breaks down. So that's one way to go about it, thinking about what is your students' availability and how many weeks do we have that we're going to work on the project. The other way to go about it is to think about it from the task perspective of what is the work that I have for this student to do. Approximately how long will it take them? How long is it going to take to onboard them and train them in doing the tasks? How often are we going to be meeting? Because you're going to want to include your mentor meetings as part of what they're being paid for. So thinking about what is it that I'm going to have them doing, and how many hours a week is that going to take? So if a student says to you, well, I'm open all summer and I'll work however long you want, then you might think about, is 10 hours a week reasonable? Is 20 hours a week reasonable? Some of our students who are working on in a research lab, they do work 40 hours a week during the summer. Most of our students work somewhere between 10 and 20 hours a week during the summer. During the academic year, that changes to typically between 5 and about 15 hours a week during the summer during the academic year, 5 to 15 hours a week. So students, there are limits on the number of hours that students can work on campus. So that's something that you have to be cognizant of. If they have another job on campus during the summer, they can work up to 40 hours a week. During the academic year, it is I believe it's 25 hours a week that they can work on campus. Angie, you're nodding, so I think that, okay, good, that's right. So like I said, if they do have another job on campus, you have to be aware of that they're not going over their, during the academic year, the 25 hours a week. Does that help you think about that, the budget, Jane? Okay. Other questions?
Erica Bokai had a question. What if the project is a long-term project and cannot be finished in the funding period?
So then my suggestion is to break it out into phases. So that's a great question, Bokai, because a lot of us, we have projects that are long-term projects. So break it out into phases. In your research narrative portion of the application, give us an overview of the project and say, this is a long-term project. Here are the research questions that we're addressing. Here are the outcomes that we're hoping for. And then I'm requesting funding for phase 1 of the project. And here is what we will specifically focus on in phase 1. And then when you apply for the next grant, keeping that same general portion. And then now we're requesting funding for phase 2. And when you're working on a long-term project and you're making multiple grant requests to ORSP, the committees, because we have review committees that review all of these grant proposals and rate and rank them. That's how we determine the funding. What they want to see is, what progress have you made? So you had a student faculty research collaboration grant last year to work on phase 1 of the project. So when you go to submit that application for phase 2, we want to see a summary of, well, what did you accomplish in phase 1? And now where is it going? That's been, like I said, that has been something that the review committees have, if it's not there, they have asked me to contact you, the applicants, to get that information before they will make a decision about it. Good. Other questions?
Okay, are there any format requirements or any writing guidelines or previous examples?
Yes, so on the applications, each is a little bit different about page numbers. So there are page number limits for each of the narratives. And if you access the e-form applications, there are some guidelines about the content, so what to include. And it's very helpful if you, so for instance, there's a section on project aims and goals. And I would recommend that you follow that structure that's given in the, on the application form. Like I said, there is a structure of and content of what to include in the research narrative and in the mentoring narrative. And the committees very much appreciate it when people follow those, the outline that's given essentially, and even using those same headings is very welcome. Yeah, and as far as previous examples, we don't have, we don't sort of keep a database of previous examples, but if you let me know about a project that you're working on and that you'd like to see a similar sample, I would reach out to another, to one of your colleagues and ask if I could share their application. But that's another thing I would say is I think most of your colleagues would be very happy to share their previous applications with you. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask, you know, if someone has written an SREU or an SFRCA or an IRCA, if they would be willing to share their application with you, because I think that most people will. I know I've shared my applications with colleagues, and I have asked colleagues to share theirs with me, and that's been very, very helpful, even in other disciplines. So that for me was true with the sabbatical application. I asked some folks who were in other disciplines if I could see their successful applications. And like I said, it was incredibly helpful. Jane, go ahead.
So I'm having my student write the research narrative, and then we're meeting and I'm adding to it. Is that common practice? And will that be helpful for him in getting the stipend? And I guess my second question to that is, how competitive is that stipend?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually on the form itself, there is a drop down that asks what level of engagement the student had in the process. And so whether it was primarily student written with some faculty oversight, primarily faculty written. So there are a number of different options to choose from there. And the committee does consider that. They certainly, you know, do take that into account when they're reviewing the applications. And then the second question you had?
How competitive?
Yeah, so I would say our grants are somewhat competitive, and it varies depending on the type of grant. But for most of the ones that fall into the student faculty research category, and I want to say research, I hope you all understand, we're interpreting that broadly. We know that research looks different in different disciplines. So research and creative scholarly activity, all of that is encompassed when I'm using the term research. So we fund, I would say we fund over 90% of the applications. But we're getting more and more applications each cycle. And so it's, you know, we run this delicate balance. Sometimes in the past year or two, we've done some trade-offs where, for instance, if maybe we've been able to fund them, but at a lesser amount than what they've requested. Or, you know, sometimes it depends on the number of applications that someone has submitted. And we ask you to prioritize those if you're submitting more than one. So like I said, it's, you know, we get to and there are cases where we will do a revise and resubmit. We've started that process too, because we want this to be a learning experience and we want to fund as many as we can. And so we've tried to come up with creative ways to be able to do that. Yeah. And then Charles, it looks like you're next.
Yeah, thank you so much, again, I've used the resources, particularly at CETL a lot, so I really, really appreciate everything that you all do. I was just wondering, from my perspective as like a researcher that does a lot of experimental stuff, um, and like I was just hoping, like I was wondering, do you have any examples of like people that have used the funds like in a creative way, or like an interesting example, kind of like to just kind of help me kind of think of how I might be able to use it. So yeah, just anything like that. Any like examples of, yeah, this person used the funding in a really interesting way, and yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of examples. So, I mean, we have some people who, so for instance, one of our art professors works on with students on creating public murals. And so she has used our supplies or the funding to purchase paints and brushes and, you know, to be able to do that in, sometimes those funds are used to buy supplies like that, or in a lab, it might be chemicals or plants that they're purchasing with it. Like I said, I know access to surveys has been a way that they're used. Qualitative analysis software is another thing. So there is a wide variety. I'm not sure that I'm giving you very creative uses there, Charles. But it does really depend on, I think, on people's projects, what they might be used for. But if you have any questions or you want to talk about anything, I'm happy to do that. Yeah, to brainstorm.
Great, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. And while it looks like Bokai is still typing, so Amy, if you want to, oh, wait, there it goes. Okay, I have one more question. Okay, good question. So is it a requirement to find an undergraduate student before writing the proposal? No, you have the option of adding the student to the proposal if it's funded. So we will follow up with you if it is funded. There is an advantage to having the students lined up, because in terms of when the review committee is reviewing it, then they know, okay, this one's ready to go. It's not a huge difference. But like I said, I think there is a slight advantage, but if you're not sure, you can recruit the students afterwards, and then we add them. We will follow up with you, and before the award is actually formally made, because we need those students on the application so that they can sign the agreement, then we definitely need the students' names before we can finalize the award. But it's not necessary for the application. Okay, great. Amy.
Thanks so much for sharing all these resources with us. I was wondering about how or what processes are necessary for getting sort of departmental or departmental approval to do some of these things. I assume some things need departmental approval and others don't before you can apply for them, and what that looks like. Maybe it looks different for depending on the department or the unit. But I was just curious if rather than just like jumping over the top of something that needs to be taken care of. So I'm just curious about that. So.
Yeah, so I can address this as a former chair, Amy. It's always appreciated if, at least from my perspective, and I think my fellow chairs would say this as well, to give your chair a heads up when you're applying for something, and just, you know, letting them know, hey, I'm going to be applying, because almost all of our forms, especially forms or for grants, that involve students or faculty or staff, they are going to run through the department chair. That's one level of approval. The department chair, someone in the college, that varies by college. If you're not in a college, a unit director, And then in some cases, a budget manager in the office will also look at them. It depends on the grant with those. If you're applying for something where there is a course reassignment, I would say that is where you want to communicate that with your chair and discuss it with them, because that needs to be accommodated, right? So in those cases, you know, where an IRCA or the Vicki Lord Larson, James Larson tenure track reassignment grant, or one of the biomedical innovator grants where there could be a course reassignment, and especially if that's what you want for the grant, to really discuss that with your chair in advance so that they know, and then they can work on how, you know, you can brainstorm with them, and they can also brainstorm with their deans about how to make that possible. So I think, like I said, a heads up is always appreciated, just because they know, then they know that the form is coming, and to approve it, but especially in cases where there's going to be something that they're going to need to do on their end if the grant is awarded, like those course reassignment ones. Those might take a little bit more planning. Yeah. Good. Any other questions? All right, well, thanks everybody for being here. And you know, you can reach out to me, to Heather, to Angie if you have additional questions, and we're happy to work with you. And we'll follow up with a copy of the PowerPoint and maybe the recording, I think, as well. So so you can have that to refer back to. And our websites, as always, we're trying to keep those up to date and provide as much information there as possible. So that's also a good resource. And if you see anything there that doesn't look right, or you want us to put more information up about something, just let us know, and we can take that into consideration, especially as we're overhauling our websites right now. So great. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend, and good luck with the start of classes next week.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.